Good evening, everyone. Welcome into Vols Society Live on this Tuesday night. My name is David Morrison from the Vols Society, here to bring you another exciting episode of Vols Society Live. This is your show. This is the show for our Vols Society followers and all Vol fans in general. The chat room is open right now on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I will read your comments, your questions. I also give you a shout out if you leave us a like on the Facebook page. And yeah, like I said, big weekend for Tennessee athletics. Obviously, the top's reason, well, the main reason we are here is the Sweet 16 this weekend in Detroit. Phil already leaving us a comment, watching us on Facebook, saying hi, David and Brad at Vol Society. Hello to you, Phil. Like I said, Sweet 16 in Detroit this weekend. Late game Friday night at 10 o'clock. And, yeah, better get the coffee and caffeine ready for that one, which I'm not too thrilled about having a 10 o'clock tip-off, especially when you have a West Coast team playing before us. But we'll get to that a little bit later. Hello to my grandparents watching along tonight. Obviously, Tennessee going to take on Creighton in Detroit this Friday night with a 10:07 tip-off on TBS. Yeah, the Vols and the Blue Jays. Tennessee coming off the win against Texas. We did a rare post-game wrap-up show last Saturday night. So after you're done with this, go back and check that out. So we had a little fun with that. But we're going to talk about Creighton. We'll also talk briefly about Purdue and Gonzaga if we get to the Elite Eight. I didn't do a lot of in-depth research with those two teams. I did more with Creighton since obviously that's the first team we're going to be facing this weekend. But yeah, as far as the Creighton Blue Jays go, Creighton so far on the year or on the tournament, they have defeated Akron and Oregon, and they defeated Oregon in double overtime. When they play, I think Sunday they played. So hopefully by the time we get to Creighton, they'll be a little tired by the time that game rolls around. But even though it's almost been a week since they played, but kind of some players to watch out for Creighton. To me, the big player that you're going to have to really watch out for, Creighton it is. Ryan says Creighton it is, and then Phil says, can we match up with the Blue Jay? Well, I think the big player that we're going to have to really watch out for, in my opinion, and he's definitely a big player, the 7'1" senior Ryan Kalkbrenner. I hope I'm saying that name right. He's averaging about 17.7 rebounds, shooting 65% from the field. And if you compare that to Zach Edey on Purdue, he's shooting a better percentage. Edey's only shooting like 62%. So I think this is going to come down to a matchup between Kalkbrenner and Jonas Adu. We saw what happened in the Texas game, especially not necessarily with Adu per se, but definitely with Tobe Awaka when he came in and picked up some early fouls. Now, this was a more physical game with Texas compared to what you're going to see Friday night, but I'm very interested to see how this matchup's really going to play out. And the last time Tennessee took on a guy like a 7-footer guy, especially with Kalkbrenner, compared to an Aaron Bradshaw at Kentucky, Tennessee did not look good against the bigs. And matter of fact, Kalkbrenner's averaging about 3 blocks per game. Z-Dog says, go Vols to you too. Other players to watch out for Creighton, the leading scorer and rebounder is Baylor Schreineman. He's 6'7" guard, number 55. He leads the team in points and rebounds at 18 points, 9 rebounds per game. He's shooting about 44% from the field, and he's shooting 50% from three-point land. And, this is a pretty decent three-point shooting team. And let me compare this. Baylor Schreinerman is shooting 50% in the NCAA tournament. So the numbers I come up with the NCAA tournament are for the three-point shots is from the NCAA tournament. So just kind of clarify that. So I think we're going to have to really watch out for him. I'm assuming Schreiderman will probably be matched up with Dalton Connect and Santee for the most part. Ryan says 50% is pretty decent. Yeah, it's exactly right at 50%. 7 for 14 in the NCAA tournament. Uh, so pretty remarkable compared to his teammate Trey Alexander. Trey Alexander, he's going to be number 23. He's a 6-foot guard. He's shooting 45% from 3-point land, 45% from the field, 17 points. He's averaging 5 rebounds, 4 assists, which leads the team. So, I mean, Schreiderman, Alexander, and Kalkbrenner, those are, in my opinion, the 3 big guys you're going to have to really contain. And I'm sure Creighton is going to be really focused on Dalton Connect and Sakai Ziegler and Jonas Adu. So, I mean, you got kind of a pretty balanced team from both, obviously from Tennessee, but especially with Creighton too. And let's go ahead and read more comments here. Phil says, hope they sling our players. Hope they sling our players down like Texas did. Yeah, that was pretty wild. I'm glad they called a flagrant on that, but you could have easily called a flagrant too in an easy ejection. So it's just kind of wild in that one. But hey, that'll help us out. Kenny watching us on Facebook says we got to shoot better from threes if this is a shootout. Absolutely, and it's going to have to really come down to Connect. Obviously, going to have to really. I mean, I hate to say Connect needs to step up, but we kind of want Connect to really have that breakout 25, 30-point performance like he's had in the regular season. Kind of having a quiet NCAA tournament, and I just think teams are very prepared for him. And they've seen what Tennessee has struggled with this year is when Connect is off. It's just a matter of time. The team just is kind of out of sync for the most part. Now I'll give credit to Sakai Ziegler, and I mentioned this Saturday night. Saturday night. He really was our player of the game. Made a lot of great defensive plays. Had 3 big steals. Really kept us in the game, and especially a physical game with Texas. But I think Ziegler's going to have to hit his threes. Sandy's going to have to hit his threes, even though I think Sandy is kind of what he is at this point. Dalton, I think Dalton's going to have to really go all out. And I think maybe a Jordan Gainey. Jordan Gainey can, he can hit the threes too. I think he's, in my opinion, probably one of our more consistent 3-point shooters. It's just, he comes off the bench and he doesn't have a lot of touches, but he's capable of having kind of that breakout game. Ryan says, I got to shoot better from everywhere, to be honest. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're going to definitely see a potential shootout game. You didn't have much of a contest with St. Peter's. St. Peter's is not the same team that made that Elite 8 run a couple of years ago. And then you had just, kind of a sluggish game with Texas, a team that you've now faced 3 years in a row, and now you're going to face even more when Texas joins the league this summer, or join the conference this summer. So I expect to see more games kind of like that. But this is going to be a different team that we're facing, and could possibly be a really great game. Ryan says, Gainey goes off pretty often, especially from 3. He can sink them. Yeah, I think Jordan Gainey can be an X factor in this game. I mean, just especially coming off the mention, not a lot of people relying on, but I think he can be kind of can have a breakthrough game, similar to kind of what Awaka had Saturday night. If he didn't get into foul trouble, I think Awaka could have had a double-double. I mean, it's just, they weren't stopping him at all. Texas wasn't stopping him at all. And especially with Adu kind of missing those easy layups right at the start of the game. I mean, Tennessee was going physical in the paint. And, Adu was off a little bit, but Awaka really stepped up. But, and I think Gainey, if you do go into a shootout game and hopefully you can be consistent with your shots, he can kind of be what Awaka was Saturday night. Hopefully he doesn't get into foul trouble, obviously. But I think Gainey's a big factor. Ziegler's a big factor. Dalton, obviously. Sandy, I think, can can hit those threes if he doesn't hesitate and kick it out, kind of like James has been doing. So, going to be very interesting, especially this Creighton team that has defeated UConn. They won by 20 points at their place. So, this is a team that obviously you don't need to sleep on. Of course, it is March Madness, and all these teams in the tournament are, very capable of making a Final Four run. So, like I said, continue those comments and your questions. I appreciate everybody contributing so far. Who can be, another sleeper player that could really break out, or an X factor, or even a key to the game, especially taking on a Creighton team. We don't really face a lot of Big East teams in recent memory, so definitely new territory. Give quick shout outs here. Shout out to Ryan, Susan, my mom, my dad, Kenny, Sean, Rosemary, and Z-Dog, leaving us a like on the Facebook page. And Ryan says, yeah, Triple J has been slow this year. We need the old Triple J to come back. Yeah. And we don't have too many games with him left. What was really strong about Triple J, especially that mid-range jumper from about 15 foot out, just seems like seems like he's came back from the injury. He's just definitely not the same. And it's really sad because I really think he can contribute too. I mean, he's a great rebounder. He's a great defensive player. So that's kind of where he's at. But, man, he can really turn on the scoring too. And especially if you're going up against, some guards like that with Alexander and Shireman and Stephen Ashworth, who I haven't mentioned as a 6'1" guard. I think he's a starter. Maybe can find some mismatches and pull us some open shots. Phil says, do you think they can handle our defense? It's going to be very interesting to see how they do, Phil. I've seen very little bit of Creighton this year. The Power 6 conference is probably the Big East. Well, I would say the Big East is the second least conference that I do watch from the Power 6. Pac-12 is the first. So, just kind of seeing some highlights, it seems like they want to go up tempo. They shoot a lot of threes. So I think if Tennessee can clamp down in that half-court defense, I really think we can hang in there and find a way to win. It just goes back to how we do on offense and not having these cold spells throughout the game. You got to stay hot with them. But just kind of looking at, you've got a couple of guys that's shooting, either right at 50% or just slightly under 50% from 3-point land. So it seems like they're going to launch it from there. Even Kalkbreaker, who's a 7'1" senior, he's already got a couple threes in this tournament. So I don't think I don't think he's going to pull up from 7-8 threes that whole game, but he'll pull up every once in a while. Brad says, how is our Vols Society family doing tonight? So glad to see our family in there. Tracy says, why is the game on so late? I have no idea. I think it's honestly ridiculous that we were on so late. And even kind of looking at the schedule, which the Sweet 16 starts Thursday night, I believe Arizona is an early game. I know San Diego State's an early game. I'm looking on my board here. Who's everybody playing? Yeah, like Clemson and Arizona is like a 7 o'clock game tomorrow night, or Thursday night. And to me, you would figure you would have put them a late game because Arizona is a West Coast team. I just don't get who came up with that. It's just mind-boggling, especially in Detroit. And I think Detroit's on the East Coast Standard Time. And the first four in Dayton, I think their tip-off times were like at 6 and 8:30. So I don't get why you can't do that. Well, in a way, I know why they do it, for primetime viewership and more revenue and stuff like that. But come on, you can't say you can start at 6:30 and it takes 2 hours to play 8:30, and then 30 minutes to warm up. You can't say you can start at 9 or 9:15. I mean, it's kind of crazy. I think they need to really look at, you know, especially like if West Coast teams are playing before East Coast teams, just put the East Coast teams up front and then go to the West Coast team. So, and yeah, got to be some sort of TV conflict, and especially it has to be something. But let me go back to Greg's comment. I forgot to read it. He says, "Go Vols! We can't continue to shoot bad." And Brad, help me out. Can't shoot that bad again. Period. Won't work anymore. Yeah, and I don't think we're going to see that, or we're going to come away with a loss. Tracy says I won't be able to stay up to the end of it. Yeah, I guess probably a silver lining for me, Tracy. It's on a Friday and not a Thursday, so I won't have much of a conflict with work. But I know that's still it's still late for me. Anyways, we'll know. We'll see how it goes. Phil says I think Ziegler and James are going to be a breakout player. There you go. Yeah, I think I would love to see Triple J really break out. Greg says, heard something Sunday that was interesting. It was stated that Dalton Connect was dealing with a death in the family. Ooh, I hadn't. Yeah, I hadn't heard about that. If that's the case, then my condolences to Connect. But yeah, that definitely will play on you mentally, especially in the tournament. So hopefully, good vibes and uh, positive influence into Dalton Connect with that situation. So, and Greg says Triple J shows some hope against Texas. Yeah, and I think that was kind of the game. That's the kind of game that Triple J likes to play, that physical game with rebounds and um, just getting there and getting dirty, which that's kind of been his thing. But I like to see kind of that old Triple J come back out, and especially we've seen it before. Greg's and interesting. Greg says I think it has to do with Vegas and betting lines. That could be a possible too. Of course, personally, I don't gamble. I know a little bit about how Vegas operates in gambling and stuff, but I don't. I'm indifferent with it, honestly. Um, but I still, if it was me and if I had a perfect world, I would I would put the East Coast teams at 7 o'clock and then put the West Coast teams at 9:30 or 10. I would probably start it at 6 and 8, but you know, it is what it is, as they say. Going back to Greg, he says they were saying it was a grandfather, not sure when or if this was indeed the case. Yeah. Condolences to his family if that is the case. Yeah, just bad timing on that. But well, I hate to say bad timing. It's you never know when you're going to pass or a loved one's going to pass. It's just the coincidence of it. Go ahead and give a shout out to Misty and Tracy leaving us a like on the Facebook and or shout Ryan. So, okay, Brad says I can confirm this is true. It's his grandpa. Yeah. So uh, condolences out to the Connect family. I did not know that. So yeah, thoughts and prayers for that and good vibes. Hate to hear that. Um, yeah, Ryan just confirming. Yeah, trying to find something. Yeah. Uh, any other questions or comments? Getting a lot of new viewers in here. Just want to welcome you into Ball Society Live. If you're joining us for the first time tonight, this is your show to ask questions or comments. Like I said, I read all the comments and questions and answer them, and you can go back and forth with some great ball fans. This is a very positive show, so welcome in some new viewers in tonight. Go back to your questions and comments. So now they're saying Brad said he found the obituary for Dalton Connect's grandpa. Greg says that's could be why he has struggled the last few games. That could be. Yeah, just hate to hear that. We just assume, you know, well, teams are figuring out about Connect, and if you shut them down, it kind of shuts kind of the rest of our team down. But yeah, that definitely plays a big factor in there. But yeah, condolences to his family. Um, and speaking of Dalton Connect, it was announced today that he is a finalist for the Naismith Award, which is the equivalent to the Heisman Trophy of college basketball. One of the 4 finalists with R.J. Davis of North Carolina, Zach Edey of Purdue, and Jamal Shedd of Houston. So throughout this difficult week, we do want to send some congratulations to Dalton Connect being a finalist for the Naismith. So congratulations. Ryan says they have definitely been doubling up on him. Tough though. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I would even say going back to kind of the last few games of SEC regular play. Janice is saying, will Connect miss the game Friday? Yeah, we hadn't heard anything. We're kind of processing what's going on at this time in the chat room, but I, I really don't know at this time. I don't want to say yes or no. So we'll if we hear anything, we'll let y'all know here on Ball Society. Kenny says, if Adu gets in foul trouble, will we see Estrella? I can see it a little bit if Estrella could come in, but I think they're probably going to go with Tobe Awaka at first. Now we've seen also Rick Barnes has used Adu and Awaka at the same time, so for me personally, I do like that combination, and I think you'll see them as starters next year. But I think for in this case, you're relying on a younger but getting experience Estrella, putting him in a big time situation. I would probably go with Adu and Estrella, and then kind of rely more on guard play, and especially with a team like we're facing with Creighton, who's outside of a 7-1 center, they are a pretty guard-heavy team from my research. So I want as kind of many guards and some guys that's going to shoot for this case. Now, probably if we get into the Elite Eight and going up against a more physical Purdue or Gonzaga team, then, yeah, I would probably you could see probably Estrella play a little bit more. Greg says, hey, let's get excited about winning a game shooting less than 35% and 12% from 3 points. That's never happened, and that's where others need to step up and stop this double team. Yeah, I mean, Texas was a pretty equal opponent for us. I guess you could say somewhat of an equal team, except obviously we got a better player. Yeah, I think yeah, it just proves that good coaching from Rick Barnes and find a way to do the little things, and even Zakai Ziegler making some great defensive plays along the way. Yeah, so physical battle, and I think playing Texas the last couple of years and kind of being familiar with them really helped out with that, which is now no more the SEC Big 12 Challenge, playing them the last couple of years, and now, as I mentioned, they're joining the SEC in July, so we'll be seeing Texas a whole lot more in the years to come. Phil says, I smell Elite Eight for the Tennessee Volunteers. I would love that. Kenny says, Sandy passes up a lot of dribble and drive shots. Why? I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a confidence issue or if it's just a change in the playbook that Rick Barnes has come up with. I get frustrated seeing it. Him and Triple J do it. It's just very bizarre. I don't know if it's just confidence issue or if it's just a new playbook they're trying to run and doing that. But yeah, Sandy would be one of my go-to scorers next with Connect and Ziegler, and even Adu. Brad confirms Dalton Connect's grandfather passed away on March 15th, so that was 11 days ago. So, yeah, hate to hear that. Greg says, in all reality, I believe we're weak inside. We can't put the ball on the floor inside. Adu just can't finish all of a sudden. Um, I think we can. I think we have potential. Um, I think we have potential to really be good inside with Adu. I think Adu's really has been kind of the most improved player on this team compared from last year to this year. But you know, at this point, yeah, I do agree that we are kind of weak inside. But you know, I think Adu really needs to step up against Creighton. I know you're going up. You're going to be matched up with a 7-1 center, but you know, I want to see Adu really go after him. Um, and I know it's going to be tough because, like I said, Kalkbrenner averaging 3 blocks per game, and compared to Aaron Bradshaw from Kentucky, I mean, it's going to be a tall task. But you know, I really want to see Adu be physical. I want to see Awaka be physical, and let's try to get them in foul trouble early on, especially with Kalkbrenner. I know it's going to be tough. Depends on which officials you get, but yeah, I like for Tennessee to really make this 7-1 center kind of feel uncomfortable with our defense, and let's see if he can pick up some quick fouls right out of the gate and get him to the bench. Now, I don't know who their backup is, but I think it's going to start with him to really set the tempo of this game, and then you could probably start running your offense and try to shut down Schreierman and Alexander and Ashworth afterwards. Uh, Bryce says Dalton will not miss. Okay, so that's great to know that he will play. Greg, a couple comments says that Bryce shouldn't be an issue than now as far as missing any time, maybe previously. True. And then I think we can frustrate them with defense. Also true. I think that's like just mentioned, you know, really play aggressively, contain the 3-point shots, and like I said, uh, you know, especially with Kalkbrenner, I think you're going to have to find a way to see if you can get him into foul trouble early on, or maybe, you know, play aggressively underneath the basket and not get him some easy putback shots. Excuse me. Tracy says we need Vescovy to play good defense. I agree there. Phil says they do fumbles the ball a lot. Yeah, I've noticed that, and especially in this tournament. I was even say go back to the SEC tournament. Yeah, I want to see Adu kind of go back to where he was just a few weeks ago, and you know, don't feel intimidated. Like I say, because I mean, you're going to be. I mean, you know, unless you face Gonzaga in the next round, you have a potential to face 2 7-footers with Creighton's guy and Zach Edey in the Elite Eight if you get that far. Brad says, I wish Sandy was hitting his shots like he used to. Yeah. And I love Sandy to death, and he's going to be remembered for what his play is. But, and when, you know, and also he's now Tennessee's all-time steal leader. So, you know, there's some good stuff to Sandy's game, but man, this year's it's not it. And I'm not sure what it is. I don't know if it's just like, I don't say it's laziness, but it's confidence level's not there. Great defender. Greg says Awaka will continue to be a beast inside. Adu struggling come out of the gate against Texas, and the time on the bench early helped. Yeah, definitely so. Especially like I mentioned with Awaka getting in them foul troubles early on. Okay, yeah. Greg talked to Phil about not strong with the ball there. Gotcha. Shout out to James leaving us a like on the Facebook page. I think we shout out Tracy already, but we'll give you another shout out there. Like I said, continue these comments and your questions. Obviously, we forgot to post the final score last night, but Lady Vols unfortunately dropped their game to NC State in the NCAA tournament. You know, was down big, tried to make a comeback, but just didn't pull it out at the end, so Lady Vols season is done. And there are some rumblings about the future of the Tennessee women's basketball program, particularly with Kelly Harper. Um, so nothing is confirmed, but there are some talks going on. So we shall see what direction do they go with. If there is a change, like I've mentioned before on Ball Society, if you do make a change, I believe you need to um, go outside the Pat Summit bubble. I mean, I love Pat Summit to death, and she is a ambassador for women's basketball. But I've been hearing talks that Carol Lawson's name has been brought up, and I love Carol Lawson to death. But I'm afraid you're going down that same road that you've had uh, with Holly Warlick and Kelly Harper, and I believe and if you go down that way, so yeah, I'll just leave it as that. Nothing's official yet, and if there's a change, we'll definitely go more in detail. But that's kind of where I'm thinking right now. And Tracy says playing at NC State was a tough place to be playing. Absolutely. I'm gonna go back to Ron's question about Sandy and JJ. I think that with Sandy and Triple J lost some confidence with DK gaining followers, maybe. Yeah, and I think that's been kind of been going on, even going back to Kennedy Chandler and Keon Johnson. And, it seemed like at time, well, Sandy probably wasn't as bad in those previous times, but definitely like Triple J and even like going even back to probably when a Comlaw was with us. It's like, oh well, we're just going to let the freshmen kind of carry us, and whether it's Chandler or Keon Johnson or Julian Phillips or whoever. So it seems like it's been kind of been a trend lately, and now with Connect, it just kind of continues on, and you don't really, and you're not going to win championship ball with that. You need everybody to contribute. There you go. Easy for me to say. Let's see. Grace says, do you think there we are rushing some shots and causing our poor shooting? Yeah. I think it's a lot. I'm seeing a lot of panic shots, especially going down the court, and it's like we got to get back in it instead of kind of relying on what we have. And Ryan's going back to the Lady Vols. Yeah, it was a good game. I was hoping we were going to make a comeback. I did too. I don't mean to be bashing on Kelly Harper. I think she's, I loved her as a player, and I want to see her win and make a big comeback and stuff. But yeah, it's just not happening. Okay, Brad's talking about do you enjoy us going live here on the face? For Vol Society Live. Obviously we're trying to find ways to be more interactive with our Vol Society followers. So, do you like us going live on Tuesday nights or anything, or do you want to see us do any change? So, leave us a comment or a question on the video. Grace says should have hired Kara to begin with. Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, I know. I think she took over the Duke program right when Kelly took over, if my timeline's correct. So possibly. Um, but like I said, I'm afraid now if you go back hiring another former Lady Vol who was coached by Pat Summit, those comparisons are going to start coming back up. And if you, of course, with Alabama football, there was a lot of years that was coaches being compared to Bear Bryant or Hackadacious with Bear Bryant. Of course, fall fans call that the golden days, whenever we were beating them consistently. But, it's kind of, we're seeing that same trend with us. So, Phil says they have a new coach at Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt ended up picking up James Madison's coach. So we'll see how that goes. He has a pretty decent win-loss record, but I don't know if he'll make a huge splash at Vanderbilt. Just depends on who he's going to bring in, and it seems like since Kevin Stallings left, Vanderbilt, excuse me, and went to Pittsburgh. It just seems like they've had kind of just couldn't really find a good connection. And it's funny because Bryce Drew, who's you know got Grand Canyon to the second round, was a former Vanderbilt coach, and Jerry Stackhouse didn't work out, and still trying to figure something out here. Let's see here. Bryce says, I think we hesitated on our too much on our shots. Yeah. Uh, thank you, Phil. Says Boss Society is great. Enjoy it very much. And I think Sandy feels lost. He's a clutch. He's not the clutch guy anymore, but he can be a huge help. Yeah, I absolutely. Uh, Greg says Michigan needs a new coach as well. Actually, Michigan picked up Dusty May from Florida Atlantic. So Michigan has now filled that vacancy up. So uh, I guess congratulations to them. And then Greg says somebody needs Stackhouse. He was one of the sharpest dressed coaches in the SEC, so it brings some style there. So I'll say somebody will get Stackhouse. If not, I could see him be on a NBA bench somewhere as an assistant. Maybe an NBA coach. You never know. It seems like it's just kind of, especially in the NBA, this seems like they recycle coaches every time. Tracy says, is it Harper's coaching or her recruiting that needs improvement? I think it's her in-game management needs improvement. And it was a big, big notice, especially against South Carolina. We see her make these big comebacks, but just cannot finish at the end, and especially giving up that wide open three. I just think that in-game management needs to get better, and that's where I think it's been her big Achilles heel. I think recruiting she's done fine with Rakia Jackson and Sarah Puckett, Tamaria Key, and then even with the transfer portal bringing in Strickland and Jules Spear, who's really took off of this Lady Vols team. I think I don't think it's recruiting. I think it's just coaching and just in-game management. Bryce says, yeah, they need to be confident and let it go. If you have a great shot, take it. Both. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And then Ryan says, man, Don Staley is just an amazing coach and it's going to be hard to beat. Yeah. I think South Carolina, they're just the best team, in my opinion, women's basketball. And, even with Don Staley, if I'm Danny White, I would give Don Staley a call. I think we got the money to afford her. And I'm just saying that. So, but we'll see. I'm not trying to write off Kelly Harper just yet, but yeah, I think South Carolina is definitely favored. Plus, you're also, you also got Iowa and Caitlin Clark, but kind of watching Iowa, they rely on Caitlin Clark a lot, and and I like Caitlin Clark. I have no issues with her at all, but I just think it's just kind of a one person team. And, she's a legend, obviously, but just, it's just, I think it's just kind of relying a little too much on her. But I think South Carolina's better balanced than Iowa is. I think Virginia Tech could have had a Final Four run, but their best player got hurt towards the end of the season, and then they ended up losing to Baylor the other night. Brad says UTK's bank account is loaded with funds, buddy. We can definitely afford her. Yeah, and I think so too. And I want to say this respectfully, obviously. Women's basketball coaches do not get paid as much as the men's coaches, and I'm not trying to compare sexes and pay raises and stuff like that. That's not what we're about here in Ball Society. But just speaking of facts, UTK has got a lot of money, and I don't know how much Dawn Staley gets paid. I'm sure she's probably the highest paid women's coach, but I think you have enough money, in my opinion, to pull her in if that's where you do go. I mean, that would be kind of my first call before I start calling a Carol Larson or Candace Parker or any other Lady Vol or whoever. And then, probably my second call would be anybody that doesn't really have a connection with Pat Summitt. Once again, all respect to Pat Summitt, but I think you need to have kind of some fresher ideas and not have that constant comparison with our lovely fan base. And I love our Lady Ball fans, passionate fans. Phil says, anybody going to the Big Orange Caravan next month? Kentucky's girl has a new coach. Yeah. Saw that. And the Big Orange Caravan coming through Memphis. Now, I don't know the exact day, so y'all can help me out. I know Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, and maybe the Tri-Cities, Johnson City. One of them, I think, is the other of the caravan, and that's going to be and my cousin. And by the way, Carlos watching this from Memphis. Hello, Carlos. Go Vols to you too. Where the caravan's going to. My cousin who was in Memphis, he went to the Big Orange Caravan, I guess a couple of years ago, maybe last year, and he saw Rick Barnes, Josh Heupel, Kelly Harper, Danny White's there. Bob Kesslin, I think, is the MC, and he talks to the coaches about the upcoming season and the season that previously had. So it's kind of a cool little event. I never got to go to it. It's always seems like when they come through the Chattanooga area where I'm kind of located, it's always like on a weekday, and I just never got down there. It's like it's between that and the Atlanta Braves Caravan Tour. I always miss both of them because I always put it on a weekday. It's harder for me to get down to Chattanooga, especially at night. Greg says, I'm looking forward to the Bama UNC game and Clemson, Arizona Thursday night. Yeah, two good games. Especially I'm really been impressed with North Carolina, how they perform with, R.J. Davis, obviously, our Mott Baycott coming back to win a championship, Harrison Ingram. Hubert Davis has got a really solid team. And then with Alabama, with Mark Sears, Estrella's, really good for them. And, Nate Oates, he's going to have his team ready to go against North Carolina. Clemson has really been a surprise team. I am shocked that Clemson is in the Sweet 16. They've kind of slipped towards the end of the regular season, but hey, PJ Hall and the Tigers are doing a good job. And Brad Bronwell, who's been on the hot seat the last 6-7 years, just refused to be fired at Clemson. He finds a way to get some wins in Arizona. Tommy Lloyd's group, Caleb Love, former North Carolina Tar Heel on that team. Should be a lot of fun. We got some great Sweet 16 games. I know I've complained about the tip-off times, but in all seriousness, we got a really stacked Sweet 16 field. Even with NC State as an 11 seed, former Vol DJ Burns on that NC State team, having a great run. They play Marquette this weekend. Brad says Bama is going to beat North Carolina. He's calling it. That's going to be a big. Man, that'd be big. That's going to be terrible for my bracket. I've still got all the Final Four teams left, even though I'm well under 30% at this point. Kenny says Arizona is going to blow out Clemson. Phil says Texas A&M really gave Houston a great game. I think Arizona's probably going to beat Clemson. By the way, how many in the chat right now is playing our March Madness game? Like I said, we got the March Madness game going on with, as far as the there Tracy is just read my mind. How's the Ball Society bracket doing? Tracy's playing it, and I know Brad's playing it. Brad's doing a lot better than I am. I am near the bottom. Yeah, and Brad says I'm about 90% in the bracket, baby. That's awesome. I am not nowhere near 90%. I had a great first day, but then after the first day, it's been hit and miss. But I still have all my Final Four teams in there, so I'm kind of rooting for them. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm rooting for the Vols, but I do have Creighton in my Final Four. So, but you know what? I will take a Vols victory over my bracket being busted. Oh yeah, Brad wanted me to remind you, the winner of the March Madness game, that the bracket challenge, I should call it, is going to win a prize, a Vols Society prize. So yeah. Ryan says, "Not me. What? Yeah. Well, I'll go ahead and be honest. I didn't think we were going to get by Texas because I was very concerned of how we showed up in that SEC tournament. Thankfully, I was wrong. I should have thought better. I'm a terrible Vol Society analyst. No, it's all good. But you know what? That's all right. At this point, I'll take the Vols in the Final Four. I know I'm probably sucking up at the last minute there, but um, I was kind of going by my brain, I guess, instead of my heart there. That's all right. Uh, Greg says I'm in there as well. I'm sure is blown up. Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. We got over 30 members of the Ball Society in the March Madness game, the tournament challenge, and like I said, Brad and I are in it. We're ineligible to win the prize, although we'll have to talk to Brad. I might have to pry Brad from that prize if he does win it. Yeah, 35 in the bracket challenge. So appreciate everybody playing along with that. We've had this last 2-3 years. Been a lot of fun. Shout out to Pastor Scott leaving us a like. Carlos, James also on the Facebook page. Appreciate you. We'll stay on here for a few more minutes. Continue those comments or your questions, just about anything. Next Fall Society Live, I'll have to look at the calendar, but well, I guess it depends on what happens this weekend. But I do want to talk about some Tennessee football on the next Fall Society Live, get some practice updates, and we will definitely have a Vol Society Live right before the orange and white game. So that kind of gives us a preview of what's going to happen in April. We'll talk more spring football along the way. I'm hearing some pretty good stuff out of spring camp so far, especially from our incoming freshmen. So that's very hopeful. Many others. Yeah, Brad says football will be here before you know it, baby. Indeed. I'm excited about it. We'll have the podcast again. Season 3 of Good Old Rocky Talk will be back. So still got a little ways off from there, but always fun when we do that. But we still got the summer to go. Yeah, Grace says we are due a lockdown game with great shooting. Absolutely. Tracy says, any updates on baseball and softball? As far as baseball goes, and I apologize, we've kind of neglected baseball and softball coverage on our Vol Society page. I know we've kind of just been focused on basketball. That's on us, especially me. But yeah, as far as baseball goes, Tennessee baseball team number 5 in the nation had a bit of a rough weekend with Ole Miss. I think we took a couple of games from them. Just kind of been, we've been solid for the most part. Blake Burke's having a great year. As the pitching's been nice with Drew Beam. Just been putting up some big numbers, kind of like last year. But we've actually dropped a few, a couple more games than kind of where we were last year. Softball's been pretty solid. Peyton Goshill is SEC Pitcher of the Week for softball. So congratulations to her. The game, as they call her. They're still hanging in there in the top 10. Softball's a little bit harder to kind of cover because of all these, especially early on when they're going to these tournaments and invitationals and they're playing 5 or 6 times throughout the whole weekend. So, but now they're settling into SEC play. As a matter of fact, I think they were on TV the other night. Last night to be exact, against South Carolina. So, like I said, I promise we will get to some more baseball coverage and softball coverage and keep y'all updated. Just basketball, especially right now, is really kind of overtaking our feed for the most part. Greg says no injuries in the spring, please, for the football team. Absolutely. Greg says, yeah, the middle game of our series so far has been a struggle. Yeah, with baseball, especially with Alabama and Ole Miss. Um, but yeah, we got some still some pretty big games lined up in store. Nothing to get frightened over at this time. But you know, and yeah, we got. Like I said, I love our athletic department right now. It's in great hands with some great coaches. Uh, and Danny White knows what he's doing. I'll just say that. Uh, any others? If not, we'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up a little bit. Oh yeah, Kenny says VFL Cordell Patterson headed to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So congratulations to Cordell Patterson. I almost called him Cordell Stewart. They had a Cordell Stewart on the Steelers. But yeah, Cordell Patterson heading to the Steelers, especially today when they announced the new kickoff rule that they signed him. TV station for Friday, David. So yeah, Tennessee and Creighton. Friday night at supposedly 10:07 p.m. on TBS. TBS will be the channel showing Tennessee and Creighton. So probably right after Big Bang Theory or AEW Wrestling or one of them. So get you ready for that. Well, actually, there'll be a game before that. I'm just playing around here. Gray says, what makes the difference Friday night and brings us through? I think the big difference for us is Dalton Connect goes off, and I think we shoot some better three-point shots, more consistent three-point shots, and try to see if we can get try to get Carl Brenner into foul trouble, the big 7-footer. Yeah, TBS is the channel, Greg. Yeah, thank you. TBS. So, yeah. Appreciate you, Phil. Have a great rest of your night, sir. Look forward to you. Greg says, I'm saying after 10:30, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's probably where I'm leaning towards. It's going to be a late night, so if you do stay up and watch it, hopefully it will hopefully everybody's kind of be caffeinated up some way. But if you don't have to work Saturday, that's good, I guess. But if you do, I know it's going to be a struggle. But it's a late night. I know when I was younger, I could stay up later on Friday nights. I guess I still can, but it's just not the same. Yeah, get a good nap Friday. Yeah, I'll have to try to squeeze that in at work or something, or take a nap after work. We shall see. And he says, I think Dalton Connect will be back. And Brad says, great show. Always glad to chat with our fans. And on that, we're going to wrap it up. Give a quick shout out to Dave leaving us a like on the Facebook page as we will wrap up Vol Society Live tonight. As far as next Vol Society goes, thank you, Tracy. We shall see what happens Friday night. And obviously, if Friday night and Sunday, if we get to the Final Four, we will definitely have a Vol Society Live next Tuesday night. If not, just check the Facebook page and we'll have to talk something else. But, I appreciate everybody coming on Vol Society Live. Thank you for tuning in this past Saturday night. I know it was like a spur of the moment thing, but we had a great turnout for that. You guys are absolutely the best Facebook Vol page out there. Thank you for your participation, and we'll catch you next time when we can. As always, be kind to each other, and always continue to spread love everywhere, if you will. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Have a great night, and go Vols.